Okay, CNT140, we are working on our traditional phone lab, our analog phone lab. First part, we're going to make a cable that we need for our phone. We'll make a little patch cable for our phone. We'll test it with our tester, make sure it's functioning correctly. Second part of our lab, we're actually going to hook it up to our router that's able to process phone calls and move phone traffic between our phones using the cord that we made. So we'll give it a functional test too. Alright, so first thing I've done is I've gathered together, I do need a piece of my phone cable, I do need a couple RJ11 jacks, my cutter and stripper, my crimper, and my tester. Okay, I'll need those things first. I'm going to set these aside for right now just to clear up my work area a little bit. First thing we're going to do, the cable we cut, I just cut a couple feet of it, nothing too significant. This is our flat non-twisted phone cable for traditional phone. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to strip a little bit of insulation off the end using our stripper here. If I take a look at my stripper real carefully, I have an end out here for unshielded twisted pair cabling. This is actually for stripping the insulation off that or cutting the insulation off that. I have a trimmer here for my flat cable, and I also have the stripper for my flat cable. So first thing I'm going to do is I do want to make sure the end of my cable is square. So I'm going to use the cutter part here and just snip it square. So I'm dealing with a flat end of the cable. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to place it in the stripper part out here. What this is going to do, there's a blade here, there's two sets of blades. They're going to come down, they don't fully close, but they're going to cut each side of this flat cable that I can pull the insulation off. So I'm going to feed it in, the blades are here on the back, I'm going to feed it in this way. We'll flip it over. On the front out here, there's a little stop. I'm going to bring my cable up against that stop. I will squeeze down and I'm going to hold. That's cutting both sides of the cable, top and bottom. I'll give it a little wiggle, and then I'm going to pull the insulation off this way. So this is actually cut both sides, pulled the insulation off. There is my cable now with my 4 wires. My yellow, green, red, and black. And if you remember, the 2 in the middle, the red and the green in the middle are like phone line number 1, and the yellow and the black on the outside would be phone line number 2. What we're going to do now is, if I were to slip on my RJ11, I would notice that these color wires are too long and the insulation here is not actually being grabbed by the connector itself. So what I need to do is I need to trim those up a little bit so they're square. So I'm going to use the trimmer part of my cable here, or my cutter stripper here, how could he hit? I'm going to use that, and I'm going to snip off maybe like a 1/4 inch of the colored part of the cables, nice and square. Okay, I'll then take my RJ11. I'll take this and I will slide it onto the cable, and I'm going to look for 2 things. I'm going to make sure the wires get into little channels. I'm going to make sure the little color wires get to the end of the connector out here. So I'm going to look at it for the side, and I'm going to look for the color wire to go the whole way to the end. And then I'm also going to make sure the gray insulation in this case makes it into the connector about halfway, because as I crimp, there's a little plastic triangle that comes in here that grabs a hold of that insulation. So I'm going to make sure my wire is doing that. Okay, and I know it's a little tough to see here, but you can see that the color wire, actually let me flip it over this way, there's the black wire there. The black wires make it to the end, and the gray insulation is making it into the connector body where it necks down for the small wires. That way when I crimp, it's going to grab the insulation. Next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to grab my crimper here. Okay, this crimper actually has the RJ11 jaw in. It's only going to go one way. It's going to slide in, and you actually hear it click into place. So let me slide this guy into place. You hear click in. That's clipping the RJ11 in. I'm going to hold in on the gray wire here so the wires don't slip out. And when I crimp, this crimper has a ratchet mechanism. As I take a look here, it's ratcheting shut and not letting me under crimp. So I'm going to keep squeezing until I see or hear the mechanism let loose or release. Then I can open my crimper here. I'll squeeze the little clicky tab. Yeah, it's the technical name. I'll squeeze the clicky tab, slide it out, and pull my crimped RJ or my crimped RJ11 connector or my phone cable out of the crimper. I'm going to repeat this process for the other end. I'll trim up the end nice and square. I will bring it over here to the stripper part, bring it up to the little stop that's in there, give it a squeeze, little wiggle, slide the insulation off, trim up the color wires here, Sometimes you might need to hit it twice till you get them short enough. That's good. Now, when I go to do the second end, I need to make sure the cable is reversed. So on the first end over here, I have yellow on the left, black on the right. This time I need to make sure black is on the left and yellow is on the right. They need to be reversed. The cable that goes from a phone switch, if you will, to the phone itself needs to be cross-pinned. So it needs to be, everything needs to be opposite. So as I do this, I'm going to make sure that my cable, I'm holding my ends next to each other, making sure that the ends are opposite each other. And I'm going to slide my connector on. I'm going to do a visual check to make sure my distances are right, and they are. Blacks make it the whole way to the end, and the grays make it into the connector where it's going to get crimped. And then I'll do another crimp on this guy. Slide it in. Oops. Get that in out of there. Okay. Slide this in into the crimper. Hold in on the gray part. Give it a crimp. Pull my connector out. And again, I'm just going to verify that my crimps look good and that my color code is opposite on the two ends. Awesome. There's my cable. There's my cable made. As you see, does not take a whole lot. I'll slide my scraps out of the way for now. I'm going to bring my tester in that comes with my toolkit. That's in our cabling toolkit. I'm going to plug the cable into the tester, and you'll notice we're used to using this for RJ45 8 wire 4-pair cabling. My RJ11 actually does fit into there. Okay, it'll do that, and I can do the same on this end too. Now, think it through. I have made a cross-pinned cable for my phone cable. So when this tester tests, it's hoping, or it's wanting everything to be normal straight through. So it's going to come up when I do the on button here and hit it again. It's going to come up as fail. That's okay. I'm going to go through the checks. Pair 1, 2 is open. That's right. That is the end of the cable. That is the, remember, I have a 4-wire cable. This is testing 8-wire. So the first two is like, hey, they're not there. Fine. 3, 6, and 4, 5 are going to show up as crossed. Those are the 4 wires in the middle of the connector. And I keep going in 7, 8. These would be the brown wires on my unshielded twisted pair. They're not there. They're saying, hey, they're open. So the middle 2 pairs, the 3, 6, and 4, 5, are saying crossed. That is looking right. That is looking right. Our cable should be good. But I want to verify a little more specifically. So I'm going to also now, and actually before I forget that, you're going to want to write that down. You're going to want to record those results in your lab. I'm also going to use another tester that we have that's able to do a wire map, this guy here. I'm going to turn him on, and I'm going to use the cable option, the one that's second down. This might be a little tough to see on the camera. There we go. I'll get some of the glare off. I'm going to do the cable option. Oops, I got ahead of myself. I'm going to select the cable option. I'm going to plug my cable into the top here. I'm going to plug my cable into the side. Again, it's designed for RJ45, but it'll handle my RJ11. The RJ11 is designed to fit. So now that I have that in there, and now that I have my cable selected, I'm going to select the option here for cable, hit the enter key, and again it's going to show me the same kind of thing. It's going to show me, hey, your first wire pair isn't there, and your, let me try to get the glare off here, there we go. I know it's a little bit angled. The first wire pair is there, and your last wire pair is not there. Exactly. We have a 4-wire cable into a tester designed for 8 wires. That's fine. I'm looking at the middle 2 pairs, and I should be seeing the 3, 6 wires crossed and the 4, 5 wires crossed. Yeah, the 3, 6 are the outside wires. In this case, the yellow and the black. And the 4, 5 wires are the ones in the middle. Those were my red and my green. So the red and the green in the middle are flip-flopped, and the blue, black and the yellow around them are flip-flop. Perfect. That's exactly what I want to see. Write these results down as well. I can ignore the end cables here, but I want to see these results here so we know your cable is correctly cross-pinned. And there is making our patch cable for our phone. We're going to next take this and plug it into our router that's able to handle traditional phones, and configure that to make these cables actually work with our analog phones. So we'll come back in the next podcast for that part.